There's a beautiful sound that the steam engine whistle makes because it's not a horn. It's really a whistle, and it's omnidirectional. In other words, it's not facing you. It emanates from the top of the whistle and spreads out 360 degrees. So when you're in the valley, like we are, and the steam whistle blows, there's a resonance across the valley, and it just has that magical kind of a sound and a little reverberation when it comes back to you.
And I think certainly a lot of the older folks have got memories of listening to the steam whistle when they were home in bed and that kind of thing. It's just a sort of a coming home by train feeling, which is, like apple pie and mud of it.
Conway Scenic Railroad began winter operations several years ago in terms of going into January, into the real winter part of the year. But we had an opportunity working with the Mass Bay Railroad enthusiasts to run a winter excursion, worked on that and did that several years ago, and also had an opportunity to work with Laro Productions, who did some photography. So that kind of got us going into operating our wonderful steam locomotive 7470 during the winter.
Well, there's a lot of things that go on in the background that people aren't aware of. What comes to mind immediately is keeping the crossings open, because you get when it rains or snows, you get buildup in the flangeways. It only takes a little bit of ice in that flangeway for the flanges of the wheels to ride up on, and you'll derail at the crossings. So we constantly have the track crew out there shoveling, scraping it down, and then we have to put rock salt in flangeways to keep those keep the ice from forming there, so we can go through without a problem. Same thing is true of switches. Every single switch has got to be shoveled out, and in some cases rock salt applied. So, and we have just half a dozen switches that have to be taken care of. And when you add steam to that, now you've got even more things that you have to be concerned about, because you've got there's water in the tender tank. If it gets really cold, you begin to have issues with freezing of your supply water. And if you don't have the water, you need that to make steam, of course, and so that can be an issue. And some of the exterior pipes on the boiler will actually get cold enough to freeze. So the crew has to be well aware of that and taking steps to keep the freezing from happening.
It's just difficult from the maintenance standpoint. You're working in the cold, the guys are working in the cold, so those all present themselves. Then, of course, here in New England, we add snow to the whole mix, and we have to make sure that we have to, have the tracks plowed before we go out.
We were able to lease a plow from Clyde Forbes, who was the owner of the NHVT, New Hampshire Vermont Railroad. And it's a nice steel plow that was built for the Central Vermont Railroad, number 4211. And that has the capability of flanging, which means it has blades in between the two trucks that go in and dig the snow out from in between the rails. And it's got two humongous air-operated wings that can push the snow back. So it's a tried and true Russell plow, and we're very, very happy to have it here on the property. We haven't pushed it with a steam engine yet. That's coming. We're going to do that. Basically, when we start up the steam engine from dead cold,
We start bright and early in the morning, 4:30, 5:30, depending on when the train leaves, because it normally takes about 3.5 to 4 hours before we have enough steam to roll out, depending. Winter, summer, it doesn't really make too much difference, the cold for the fire up. Basically, we're inside. When we run it daily, that's basically a daily process. We bank it at night. We keep the fire going all night. We bring the boiler level up to a level that it will stay all night without anybody putting anything in. The firemen will come in the morning, about 7:30, because our normal train schedule is steam runs at 10:30 to Conway. So he comes in about 7:30. He'll break up the bank, build another fire, add water if he needs to. He'll grease the engine, fill the tender up with water, and basically it's a fire up like you would do first thing in the morning when you start up at 4:30, only it only takes about an hour. And you're ready to go for the day. And that's done every day that the steam engine runs. We start the fire. We build the fire by putting in cardboard, newspaper, then we put in scrap wood, then we put in a layer of coal. When we get ready to light it, we'll throw in 4 or 5 coffee cans full of kerosene, just like lighting a big hibachi. The idea is to get at least the whole firebox somewhat inflamed so you don't have any hot spots. Works a lot better. Now we'll saturate a couple of rags. And then we'll the good dry wood, the kerosene, cardboard, and coal will ignite pretty evenly, as you can probably see. Now that we've got it going, we've got the forced draft going through. We'll close the door and let the fire do its thing. Basically start warming up the boiler and make steam. Then basically it's just shovel, feed the fire, bring it up slow. We like to bring it up slow because it's built in 1921, it's old. Basically checking the water level. We start off with a low water level because as you heat water, it expands. So if you should start with a 3/4 glass or full glass, you would be way out of sight. You want to be able to see the water when you start, and where it is now will basically rise up to about halfway, which is a very good fire up level. It gives you plenty of water over the crown sheet, and it gives you plenty of room to cool it off to get too hot before you go out of the house. We don't like to pop it off in the house. Kind of cleans the cobwebs out of the timbers and everything else. We'll be sitting here monitoring it, and we will add coal to it as the wood burns down and turns to hot embers. We'll add more coal to it till we have a full bed of coal. 3.5 hours or so, we should be ready to pull out of the house. Oh, this is what we call the tool room. Not very big, but it's got everything we need, basically. So we've got everything from tiny little 1/4-inch wrenches to my favorite, this is Bertha. If the steam engine gets ornery and it needs a big nut tightened, this will do it. If this can't do it, we put 10 feet of pipe on there. Just tell everybody on maintenance that there is no such thing as a repaired steam engine, just one that runs, because it's constant. It was constant when they were built, 80 to 100 years ago, and it's constant every day.
The hard grease goes into the connecting rod pins and the drive rod pins. It's a very critical point of keeping the lubrication. these parts of the engine lubricated. It's a lithium-based grease, and it's got a high tech, so it doesn't throw off. It sticks with the parts as it moves.
Yeah?
Very important in steam engines, keep them lubricated. Cuts down on the wear and tear.
He's not. Just told me.
Steam engines are very special. A lot more care and maintenance into them,
What?
and it's a lot more to keeping them going,
No,
and a lot more interesting to work on.
no,
Once we get up to running pressure, we'll basically check everything. We'll get the air pump running, get the lubricator for the air pump, valves, cylinders, and everything. And then whenever it's time, we'll pull it out of the house.
Well, if you want to take the crew where the engine is sitting, actually in the house, then we will open the doors and then we'll get everybody in position.
We'll turn it on the turntable for whichever direction they want it to go that day. We'll blow out on the ash track first and clean the ashes out of the ash pan. Then we'll back down the hill, or head down the hill, whichever way we're going. And we basically blow the engine out because it's been sitting, idling. It's very sooted up. And we like to blow it out down the hill. We use the bell every time we move. We don't always use the whistle, but every time we move in the yard, we use the bell. We use the whistle like for a brake test. We give one long. That tells the whole crew that we're going to test the brakes. And then two shorts say we're going to release. We also use the bell and the whistle in combination at every grade crossing. Well, the locomotive is made up of two parts. The front part is basically the locomotive, the powerhouse, the boiler. And then it's coupled to a tender, which holds the water and the coal that feeds the boiler. Well, a steam engine works like any engine. It heats water to make steam, and the steam is released into the valves through the throttle. The valves distribute the steam to the pistons. There are two valves and two pistons on a steam engine. And the pistons basically act like a piston in a gasoline engine. The gasoline is injected into the engine, a spark plug ignites it, you have power. In this case, the coal heats up the water, makes steam. The steam is distributed to the pistons, which forces the pistons back, which are connected through a connecting rod to the drive wheels, which give you your locomotion. It takes two people to run a steam engine. You have an engineer and a fireman. The engineer, it's his job to basically run the train, and the fireman keeps the boiler pressure up, fires it, adds water, greases, everything else.